Chelsea fans, it's time to get excited. Chelsea have signed Joao Pedro from Brighton, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at what he could bring to Chelsea, what role he could fill, and how he can unlock new tactics for Enzo Maresca next season. I've got to say, guys, I think this is an absolutely quality signing. I think what he offers Chelsea and what he could really give them in specific roles is so crucial and so exciting for Chelsea going forwards. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's focus on the player himself to begin with. He had 16 goals and assists for Brighton in the Premier League last season. That's really impressive when you consider the fact that he only made 23 starts. So in comparison, that's actually quite a good return. But one of the most impressive things, or I suppose some of the most impressive things from Joao Pedro, are these statistics that I've highlighted for you right here. Progressive passes, progressive carries, and successful take-ons. When we think about the roles that Chelsea need in attack, and we think about the way that Enzo Maresca wants to build, it does rely a lot on 1v1 opportunities and 1v1 experiences. So with a player of Joao Pedro's quality, with his progressive carries, his ability to move the ball higher up the pitch, we know that Cole Palmer does that very well, but also with progressive passes, again, picking your head up and looking forwards, finding that pass in between the lines. And when you're talking about successful take-ons, putting him in the 90th percentile against players in Europe's top 5 leagues in his position, 1.34 per 90, really impressive statistics. But let's talk about the actual positioning that he could find in this Chelsea setup. And if we look at the heat map here, you can see he's casually drifting over towards that left-hand side. He's not a central striker, and he's not going to be operating as one. We know that Liam Delap has come into the club, and Nicholas Jackson is still a player at the club currently. But what you're going to see with Joao Pedro is very much in this inside 10 role. Now, you might be thinking, Cole Palmer plays there. Now, there is option for flexibility and there is option for rotation, but Joao Pedro moving in from that left-hand side, moving in as a striker into a more deeper position is where you're going to generally see him. And you can see that reflected in his heat map right now. We'll talk about the dynamic that he could have with Cole Palmer a little bit later, but so far, Joao Pedro is a really competent, young, hungry 23-year-old who has a bunch of promise, really good 1v1 statistics, and he's already set the Premier League alight with his 16 goals and assists in only 23 starts. Really impressive for the Blues going forwards. But the big question will be, where does Joao Pedro fit into this Chelsea side? Is he a striker? Is he going to be a 10? Is he going to be some form of a winger? The question is still going to be out until he plays in a Chelsea shirt, but I think Enzo Maresca has already given us a hint as to where he could play, and it was in this game that Chelsea had in the Club World Cup against Benfica that really gave a good inkling as to what he looks to do with Joao Pedro later on down the line. What we've got is Chelsea building up currently. You've got the two holding midfielders, you've got two of the centre-backs of that back three that we know they transition into when they have possession. The third one is just off of your screen currently, but you've got those two holding midfielders, and then you've got your two attacking midfielders in Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer. But the crucial thing about this is how they got that box formation that we know Enzo Maresca really likes. Normally, what you'd see is a fullback inverting into midfield, but clearly we can see Lavia and we can see Caicedo right here. So what has Enzo Maresca done? Instead of having a fullback invert into midfield, what you've got is one playing really high and wide in Marc Cucurella. And what you've actually got is Cole Palmer drifting in from a left wing position into an attacking 10. Normally, this would be quite strange, it would be quite odd, but what you've now got is that box formation because of the width that's being held out wide. There is a problem though, and I don't think Cole Palmer is necessarily getting as much on the ball as I'm sure a lot of people would like. I don't think he wants to play out on the left hand side. I don't think he wants to operate as a left winger because he's more happy in these central areas, but that does leave us to assume that there could be a change there, perhaps a player of the ilk of Joao Pedro. With Maresca's tactical flexibility and experimentation, there are options for Chelsea to go forwards and options for them to change, and options that include Joao Pedro really being a current focal point within the side, and having that focal point be a little bit more central only makes sense for Chelsea. Taking up a more attacking midfielder role or even an attacking 10 role gives Chelsea not only the potency that they want, but also the idea of having Cole Palmer a little bit more central rather than pushing him out wide. This is currently at the sacrifice of an Enzo Fernandez, but I think that you could chop and change. I think you could rotate them and everything would be fine. I don't see Joao Pedro as a main central striker. I still think Liam Delap is going to be that out-and-out focal point, but when we're talking about the way that Chelsea could develop, you could see Palmer move over to his natural right-hand side, Joao Pedro moving in field because of the movement of Cucurella moving ahead. And this creates Chelsea's 5 going forwards, their 5 at the back, and it gives them a good balance throughout the side. It also enables Joao Pedro to get a little bit more central, still creating that box that we know Enzo Maresca likes, and it's still got that defensive powerhouse of Caicedo and Lavia, both of them working in tandem together, both of them really creating a platform for Chelsea to then go off, whether it be up the right-hand side or up the left. The idea of Cucurella moving out towards that left-hand side gives Joao Pedro a little bit more space and allows him to work in those half spaces next to Palmer, but it also gives Palmer that license to be a little bit more free-flowing, roam a little bit more. And then when you're talking about the defensive shape and you move everyone back into their more defensive positions, you can have Joao Pedro out on this left, Palmer and Delap move across almost as a 4-2-4. So still, you're not changing too many things defensively. You've still got that ability to move forwards with Joao Pedro in that attacking area, in that almost half space, and you've still got a load of balance throughout the side that I'm sure Enzo Maresca will be desperately wanting. And it's that quality 1v1 capability and vision that Joao Pedro could bring to that inside attacking 10 role, like he did right here against Manchester City. I think this is a perfect example of what he could bring to Chelsea, and in fact the way that Brighton are actually moving in this particular scenario could be adapted and likened to the way that Enzo Maresca might want his Chelsea side to play at the start of next season. So we've got your winger or wing back holding the width out wide. So you've got your left winger here, you've got your inside 10 here in Joao Pedro. We're going to be keeping an eye on him and keeping the main focus on him. You've got another 10 here that could very easily be Cole Palmer, player on the right hand side holding the width out there, and you've still got your striker in Danny Welbeck being that main focal point, again operating the same way that a Liam Delap would for Chelsea. As the play gets built up, we're going to notice the position that Joao Pedro is in, because the player for Brighton is going to fire a pass into Welbeck, very similar to what you could expect to happen for Chelsea playing into Liam Delap, but it's then what you play off of and how you then make that into a scenario for yourself that's going to be the most impressive thing. The moment it goes into Welbeck, you see Joao Pedro's eyes light up. He starts to move, he starts to make a motion, he starts to really offer himself to help his teammate. He receives the pass from Welbeck and then drives centrally. He drives with the ball, and this is absolutely key because you've got the movement of your Chelsea players, or your Brighton players I should say, moving from right to left, and that opens up channels and pockets of space. It's this game intelligence from Joao Pedro that I think is really impressive. It's then about whether he has the vision, not only the 1v1 capabilities, but the vision to be able to find his teammate as he's moving forwards. He picks that pass pretty brilliantly. He sees this moment right here to slot it in towards his teammate and give himself a 1v1 opportunity with Ederson. It's a brilliantly worked goal, and it is a key highlight of the real asset and the real good qualities that Joao Pedro could bring to this Chelsea side. Earlier on at the beginning, I mentioned the idea of Joao Pedro being the key to unlocking Enzo Maresca's new tactics for next season. And while we have explored the role that Joao Pedro could play within this Chelsea side, I believe we could take it a little bit further. So I'll leave you with this. Enzo Maresca has given us a decent idea on how Chelsea could set up for next season, utilising the fullback to make a wide run to allow for the winger to come inside and create that box formation that we know Enzo Maresca likes. But while this is all fine in build-up phase and the utilisation of the wide areas is so incredibly important, it still allows for Chelsea to maintain that dominance within midfield, that dominance that we know Enzo Maresca wants. It still gives him that balance from both the flanks but also from defence and attack, giving 5 defenders with that double pivot of Lavia and Caicedo, and of course their 5 attackers to go forwards. But what if we were to take that a little bit further? Although it is absolutely fine in the build-up phase, The attacking phase and the final phase does seem to lack sometimes, with only the striker being the one entering the penalty area. Occasionally you might have wingers or a late midfield run, but you are seeing Chelsea struggle sometimes with the final ball, the final pass, the final setup. And so it's in that area that I think we could push this a little bit further. With a player of Joao Pedro's ilk and his ability to move into more central areas, what you could see is a player move forwards almost in tandem with the striker when Chelsea enter the final phase, almost becoming that second striker. This allows Cole Palmer to then move centrally, having a bit more of a freer role. Again, I must stress that this is only in the final third, only in the final phase, not in build-up. But this freedom allows Cole Palmer to then move about and create and dictate players he would like, giving the option for these two strikers to then make darting runs into the box, as well as holding the width out with your left back and with your right winger. This is just something that I think Chelsea could adapt to and Enzo Maresca could really evolve into, giving Chelsea that little bit more potency. But again, it is only best utilised and only best explored with the ability, movement and quality of a Joao Pedro, still giving that flexibility in both attack and defence. But of course, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. What do you make of Joao Pedro and how do you think he could impact Chelsea? As I said, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learnt something new and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.